Hey, Wayne Fox back with another video. This one again for those new to Lightroom. I thought I would go over some of the basic interface elements. There's quite a few little tips and tricks that might make things go a little smoother for you. So let's just get right into it. So in this video, I want to cover the basic interface of Lightroom. I'll try to be brief. There's quite a bit of information, but it's pretty logical once you sort of understand it. The first thing I typically do when I'm in Lightroom is I'll click the maximize button to go to full screen mode. The Lightroom full screen mode on a Mac seems to be a little flaky, and I don't know about Windows. For some reason, Adobe's tried to write their own full screen mode instead of just using what's built into the operating system. Neither of them work great, but the Mac OS version of full screen mode seems to be more reliable. As you look at the interface, the main area is the middle, which I call the viewer window. Here you will see the photographs that you've selected in your library. This is called a grid view. If you want to see an individual image, simply double click on it and it will fill the window. Double click again and it will go back to the grid view. You can also hit the E key, which will fill the viewer window. And if you want to go back to the grid view, you can hit the G key. Notice that there's a gray area around it. If I right click that gray area, that lets me set how dark that will be. I typically leave it medium gray because that's better for printing. Sometimes if it's a real skinny picture, let's real quick just crop this one to give you an idea. And now you can see that that gray shows a little bit more. And I typically leave it medium gray. Some people prefer it black or dark. Around this window, you have two bars and two side panels. A module picker bar at the top, you have a film strip at the bottom, and then you have two side panels. The side panels and the bars can all be hidden if you would like. If you click the little arrow, it will hide that particular panel. If I right click that arrow, you'll notice I have a few settings. The auto hide and show is typically what you do. If I switch this to manual, I must click the arrow to either hide or show it. If I leave it auto hide and show, then when it's hidden, it will pop out when I drag over. So typically that's what most do. You notice you can also sync it with the opposite panel. So if you want to hide it, then they both are hidden if you want to sync it. The other thing that you can do is you can hit the tab key and that will hide the two side panels. Okay, or you can toggle them back and on. And if you want to hide all of the panels and the bars, if you hit Shift Tab, that will hide them all and just give you the window. This is quite useful if you're looking at a specific photograph. If I hide it, although typically you just hit the F key to go to full screen mode if you want to do that. However, hiding the panels is very effective if you're using a local adjustment in the develop module and you want more screen real estate. The top bar and the film strip are consistent and stay the same throughout all the modules. However, the side panels vary by module and are stored by module, so you can set it up different in each module. The items in the side panels also vary by module based on the type of work that you're doing in that module. One thing you can do, you can hover your mouse, and when you see the little grow box here or grow icon here, you can click and drag to make a side panel bigger if you would like, or smaller. You can also make the film strip larger, which lets you see the photographs a little bit better just by clicking and dragging up. Let's go ahead and talk about the two bars quickly. As I mentioned, they are consistent through all the modules. They don't change. The top bar, which I call the module picker bar, it's probably more likely called the module selection bar. I don't know what it's actually called. But here's where you can navigate to your various modules and functions within Lightroom. On the left side, if I hover here, you'll see a little triangle pops down. If I click that triangle, that lets me turn on or off certain functions. The three main ones are syncing with Lightroom CC. You can also turn off the address lookup function and the face detection lookup function. If you have a progress indicator in your identity strip here, then when you click on the triangle, it will actually tell you what Lightroom is doing and let you decide whether you want to cancel that action or not. The modules themselves do not have to all show. You can right click anywhere in this bar and turn any of them off that you don't want to see. For example, in my case, I mainly just use 3 of the modules. And so I just have those 3 show. If you happen to have a module turned off and then you do a function that requires that module, for example, if I turn off the develop module and I now hit the D key to go to the develop module, you'll see that it goes to the develop module and it puts it back in the bar at the top, so it's now a selection. You can also certainly turn any of them back on, or you can simply hit the show all button. The bottom bar is called the Filmstrip. This shows all of the images that you have currently selected. You make the selection in your library module, here in your folder structure, or in your catalog, or in your collections. So whatever you've selected here will also be down in the Filmstrip. Basically, it's the same images that you would see if you go to the grid view. A couple of cool things about the Filmstrip, other than your ability to navigate with arrows, it shows you a few things. We'll get into more of it in detail later. But useful in the Filmstrip, you can turn on a second display, a second window. If you have a second monitor, you can put that window over on that other monitor. So for example, you can show your grid view on one and your 100% view on another. This section here shows you the current location that you're navigated to in your library. It tells you some information about it. And if you'll notice, as I hover over each image, it gives me the name of the image I'm hovering over. On the right side, we see a filter bar. This will search within the selected photographs anything that meet the criteria. This is similar to what you can also get with a library filter, which I'll cover in just a minute. But it's a little more convenient. So for example, you can find anything in your current selection that you've set a flag with, or if you set a star rating. So let's just real quick, if I set a star rating here, if I go down to the filter bar and I turn 1 star on, that actually filters based on that criteria. And as you can see, since I only have the one, that's the one that's selected. We can turn it off, or you can always go over here and just say, I don't want to see a filter. This gives you the ability to turn different things off and on for the filter bar. The thing that most people miss in this bar is the ability to navigate backwards and forwards in their folder structure. Basically, the folder structure, as I mentioned, mirrors your hard drive. But a lot of times you might have need to go back. Let's say that you've changed a selection and you want to go back. Well, this shows you the recent sources that you've looked up in your library. So I could go back to that folder. It also gives me some quick things up here. This is the same basically as clicking in the catalog. So basically it's giving me these. And the thing that's really useful is to be able to set a favorite source. So let's say that we went here, and this isn't a great example. This is actually my wife's library catalog. I've been trying to get all of her stuff organized and so my kids can have access to it. But let's say that this is a folder that's representative of something that you need to get to a lot of the time. If you click here, you can say set to add this to your favorites folder. And now no matter where you are, you can always go straight to this folder. In my case, I have a folder called Gallery, and I can go straight to that folder. You can even put a collection in as a favorite source. So this can be quite useful, and a lot of people actually miss this. So it's very easy to go to places you've been, and if you need to go back where you've been, things like that. Moving back to the side panels, if I wanted to have, in this particular module, I want both panels to show, but maybe in the develop module, I typically don't want the left panel to show because I really don't need it. So when I'm in the develop module, I usually turn that off and I make my right panel as wide as I can make it. If I need to do something in the left panel, I just go over, it'll pop up. I can go to my history, I can take a look at things, but I typically leave it hidden. Now, when I go back to the library module, you'll notice that both the panels are set. So the side panels are stored by module in all of the modules, and typically the left panel is a informational panel, or it's a selected image, or it shows you your folder structure, or it gives you your presets. You don't actually enter data in the left panel. You enter your data and make your changes in the right panel in all the modules. So in the library module, you can add metadata. Develop module, you can obviously make changes to the print, etc., etc. Next thing I want to cover is the navigator itself. The fit and fill are kind of the zoom out toggles, and the 1:1 and the other ratio, whatever numbers here, is the zoom in toggles. If I click the little arrow, it lets me set the last ratio. Whatever I click there is stored in that final number. and will be the second zoom in ratio. Now what happens is whatever one I click, if I click this one and I click this one, so I click fit, I click 1:1. Now if I click in the image itself, it will toggle between those two. I can also press the space bar to toggle between those two. While I'm zoomed in, I can grab the little rectangle and I can drag it around to look at a different part of the image. Whatever one of these two I click is set to be the zoom out, and whatever one of these I click is set to be the zoom in. So once I click the fill and the 2:1, now I toggle between those. So your zoom out, you pick one of the two, fit or fill, and the zoom in, you pick 1:1 or some other ratio, and that sets your toggles between those. The navigator can be hidden at any time by turning the little triangle. A lot of times I actually like the navigator, but sometimes you want to see more information down below. If we look in the library module below, you'll notice that I have 4 sections. I can right click on any section and I can hide them. So if I don't want to see published surfaces, I can turn it off. This works in almost all the side panels. If I click on one of these, I can open it up and you'll see that in my folders, this is my current folder structure, and I can click and open up anything and I can see different folders. This is how you navigate through your folder structure. This will mirror what's on your hard drive, and any changes you make using the data here will be done through the operating system just as though you were in the Finder or File Explorer. You can also use what's called solo mode here, and this is a pretty handy thing on a laptop or a small screen. If I go to solo mode, then if I click one of the other sections, it hides all the sections. Only one section is open at a time. You'll notice that now I'm in solo mode, the little triangles are dotted. That tells you that you're in solo mode. If I go back to non-solo mode, then the little arrows are solid, and whatever one you're hovering over goes white. If you click it, it will open, and you can have them all open at the same time. This works in all of the panels, and if I go over to the right panel, for example, I can, there's a comment thing, which I haven't figured out because it says comments, and this says comments not supported here. So I have no clue what that is, but obviously they're not supported, so let's just not show it. Maybe somebody can clue me in what that's about. But here again, I can go to solo mode or not. If I'm in solo mode, then it opens one at a time, whichever, and it closes the other one, so as I go back and forth. But if you need to, you can always just go to show all, and you'll notice I also can go to expand all so that they're all open. If you ever get in a case where there's too much expanded, rather than clicking them all, it's easier just to go to collapse all and then open the one that you want to open. Let's move quickly to the develop module just to show how it's a little bit different. In the develop module, you again can certainly hide anything or go to solo mode on the left panel. The one thing that does stick is the settings of the navigator. And as I mentioned, both the module picker bar and the film strip stay the same and constant through all the modules. There's a couple of other things you can do with the right panel in the develop module. You not only can you hide certain things, but instead of just clicking them off and on, you can go to customize develop panel. This gives you the ability to turn things off and on. For example, maybe you don't use tone curves, and so no reason to see them. Maybe you don't use split toning. You can also click over here and drag and rearrange the order. So for example, in my case, I actually use effects quite often. I like to put a little vignette on a lot of my images, and that will then reorder them. Now, if I save this, it will force me to restart to make those changes effective, and we're not going to do that right now. The last thing to note is in each of these sections, you have a little toggle. If I go to my effects and I apply a vignette, you'll notice that I can turn whatever that section does off just by clicking the toggle off and on. And this applies to anything other than the basic changes, so you can see with or without them. If you're in the develop module and you want to go back to the library module, the simplest way is to hit the E key, and that will just send you straight back to the library. Most of the time, in my case, I'm going back, I hit the G key because that immediately takes me to the grid view. A couple of other things that are helpful. There are two elements that aren't being shown right now. One is the toolbar. If you press the T key, that will open the toolbar. And this allows you to do various things like set flags, color labels, navigate. If I click over here, this shows me all of the things that are available in the toolbar that I can have. If I don't want any of those, you can turn them off. For example, I don't need the slideshow to start from here, and I don't need to navigate from here. Okay. The other thing that's useful in the toolbar is the ability to just make the thumbnails larger and smaller. A lot of times, if you want to do something in the toolbar, in my case, I will hit the T key. I'll do whatever I want. And then maybe I want to make the thumbnails larger, and then I'll hit the T key and hide it. I'm always trying to maximize the space in the middle. One thing to note is the toolbar and what's available in it does vary by module. So sometimes you have tools that are different based on the module that you're in. The other interface element that's not showing is the library filter. Hit the / key to show the library filter or to hide it. Using the library filter is a little more than I want to go into in this video. I will do another video about how to manage the library filter. Again, the / key turns the library filter off and on. The T key turns the toolbar off and on. The tab key hides the side panels. Shift tab hides all the panels. The G key goes to the grid view. The D key goes to the develop module. Another useful shortcut is the R key, which goes to the crop tool in the develop module. A lot of times the first thing you want to do is crop your image, so it's nice just to go straight there. The other keys that we've mentioned is the F key goes to full screen mode on the currently selected photograph. Notice the F key will use whatever the current fit, fill, or ratio that you have selected for the image when you do it. So if you've zoomed into 1:1 when you hit F key, you will stay at 1:1, etc. Very useful. There's a lot of other shortcuts, and I will be adding to another video. You may have noticed that my bar at the top is now customized, and I have another video I'm working on which tells you how to customize this as well as some of the other interface elements within Lightroom. I didn't cover any of the specific things that any of the panels do. I just covered the overall function of the panels themselves, and I'll be doing a video on each module, and there we'll get into the detail of every single panel and what the different sections in the panel does and how to use those in your workflow in Lightroom. Well, that does it. Lots of things to cover there, but hopefully it made sense. There's a lot more little tips and tricks, but I'll cover those as I go through each of the individual modules, because a lot of them are related strictly to the module that you're working on. Hopefully you are enjoying the videos. If so, please hit the like button down below. And if you would like, maybe think about subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. I'm having some fun making these. Don't have a lot of subscribers, but I've got enough that it's hopefully I'm providing some content that people like. Anyway, until next time, hey, thanks for watching. See ya.